Hi, welcome to another edition of Cook This. I am your host, Pete Calvetti. This is your favorite little local TV show where we take some of our chefs and restaurateurs around the town and bring them in, have them cook some of their favorite dishes for us in our celebrity judge panel. Only today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to take a celebrity from RB High School. We're going to take the local culinary students, Mr. Joe V over here, and ask him to cook for our celebrity judge panel. This morning we have Mr. Matt Sinde with us. We have Mrs. B joining us in the middle, and Mrs. Patti Farlee joining us. Thank you again for coming and eating with us in the morning.
Thank you.
So this morning, Mr. Joe V is going to be making us some Latin flavored dishes. He's going to start off with some guacamole and some pico de gallo, and he's going to show us his way of doing it, okay? Joey, take over here.
For the pico de gallo is basically just onions, tomatoes, and lime juice mixed together with some spices. And when you're choosing your tomatoes, I like the ones that are on the vine because I always feel like they have the freshest flavor. And so when you're going to take them, you just want to take the vines off each one of them, and then you're going to cut into them. And tomatoes are a soft vegetable, so a really sharp knife will ruin them. So you want to use a more serrated, almost like a bread knife to cut into them. And you want to get them nice and even so that when you go, you can go across without having to worry about them being uneven in the pico or getting uneven mouthfuls, too large or too small.
What type of tomato is good for pico?
Roma tomatoes are the best, or grape tomatoes too, but they're very small, so you have to cut a lot more of them.
A lot of cutting.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, what grade are you?
I'm a sophomore at RB. Second year here.
And what cooking class do you take here?
I'm taking the Advanced Foods Cooking class with Mrs. Farlee. And I've taken Foods 1 and Foods 2 with her too.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So you know what you're going to be doing, huh?
Yeah, definitely something around the food area. Maybe not a chef per se, but definitely something around there.
Excellent.
Weren't you thinking about research and development, Joe?
Yeah, R&D chef or maybe like food science.
Explain to me what R&D chef is. You know far more about cooking than I do.
Research and development chefs, they're the people who come up with new flavors. You know how they say, like, on those commercials, it originated right here? That's usually a lie. They actually have chefs who work backstage, and they come up with new ideas for fast food chains, for all sorts of restaurants, for people to eat.
That's an interesting field. McDonald's has its own R&D, and they come up with 200 different recipes before they'll come up with that one that actually gets released.
So
and they
Joe,
can go on for several months.
I don't know if you know the answer, maybe Mrs. Farlee does. Where do you go to a particular kind of college? Is that a specialized program to get trained in how to do that?
Yeah, you go to a culinary college. Some of the best ones are the CIA, which is the Culinary Institute in America, and Kendall College right here in Chicago. And they train you in how the kitchen works, how it operates. They give you internships usually. Help you out find a job in the field, depending if they have a career center or anything. So they basically prepare you to work in a kitchen, but they also prepare you for the business side of restaurant owning.
Plus, I think another one, because I've had R&D chefs report into me to develop products, the food science, being able to learn how different ingredients work, what am I looking for, if I'm developing a bread product, what's my protein level I need to be at, what can I do to get this certain texture. But food science is a big one too that you want to be able to do. And research and development, like you said, a lot of companies can't afford that and are looking for you to develop the idea that's going to be their next win-win for them. So.
Right.
Purdue University is very well known for their food science program. I don't know if you've had any employees from that university. U of I also has a very good school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you a question. Have you been cooking since you were a young kid, or,
I hated food and eating, basically, until I was about 7 or 8, because I ate 4 things: chicken, ketchup, peas, and corn. That's it. That's all I ate.
Well, you got your vegetables in there.
Yeah,
That's really
the same
impressive.
sentence before.
Yeah.
Chicken, ketchup, peas, and corn.
If it was bread and chicken, he had all 4 food.
Yeah.
Right?
That's all I ate. And I started off baking because, everyone loves sweet. So I started off baking with my dad, making cookies. And then I started off experimenting with all, wrong. Then I started off just experimenting with that. And as I found out, you can't really experiment when you bake, as Ms. Farlee has attested many times in her class.
Science. Baking is
Baking is down to the precise measurements.
On the culinary side, he's challenged.
And she's taught me how to cut a lot of things, different knife skills, like how to cut this onion, how to make a checkerboard out of it.
Yeah.
so that when you cut it, it's just gonna fall apart right into nice, neat little slices.
Joe, what type of onion are you using for this?
I'm using a sweet white onion. I think it has the best flavor and complements the tomato the best because the tomato does have a little bit of acid to it. And it stands on its own while not overwhelming the pico de gallo.
Now, is this with your recipe? You need to make it the day of you're going to use it. You can't make it beforehand, or
You know, I actually don't know the answer to that question. Whenever I make,
Pico's fine.
Really?
Pico's fine the day before, yeah.
Okay.
Usually you can make it several hours before. I make it at my house a lot, and I don't eat it, but my family loves my pico, so I make it in the morning and let it sit and cultivate, because by the time he's done putting in the lime juices and the seasonings, by the time the onions and the tomatoes absorb it, that's where the true flavor is.
You want to be careful not to make it too far in advance, though, because the liquid, it's going to become, don't you
I
think?
squeeze liquid out. I squeeze
Okay.
liquid out of my tomatoes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm getting more of a drier tomato now because I like it diced like fine. So, again, everyone's got their versions. I'm starting to tear over here. How you doing?
Okay.
I'm just fine. I am immune to onions. I cut them so much. They're one of my favorite
Yeah.
foods now. Caramelized.
What's
I
your
love
secret
them.
on onions? Any chef secret on your end?
When
tear?
I just
People
got
put in
used
the
to it.
refrigerator, water. I mean,
Peeling them underwater prevents me from tearing. That's what I used for a long time. And then actually chewing a piece of bread. I don't know if that one's a superstition.
I've heard chewing.
My Nana taught me how to do that one.
Those are probably right then. Anything Nana's taught us. In my family, it's Nana.
I like
Taught
your
us how to make the
technique.
sauces
I
and
like
stuff.
your technique of slicing the herbs, making it cigar type.
Thank you. It's a chiffonade. Another thing that Mrs. Farley taught me. Because I like to do things on my own. So
A good
trying,
teacher.
I'm trying.
This is a tribute to your teacher, John.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Joe
Like
does
that.
a lot of cooking on his own. He's the go-to
We're only
guy,
doing
I think,
pico,
in
yeah.
his family.
Yeah.
So
So,
I
Just toss
we
this.
both learn.
No pepper or anything.
do you have something you make,
See,
Joe,
yeah,
that they don't let you come to any family gathering without bringing? Or
Yeah, that's basically it. If I don't make something, I'm banned.
yeah.
Now,
Joe coming? What time's Joe gonna
Yeah.
be here?
I have a question. Do you guys like spicy? Do you want me to add some spice
kind
to
of
this?
mild.
I'm
Moderate.
kind of a mild person
I'm
myself.
more-
You're all mild?
Yeah.
I love it spicy, but I'd be happy
can
to
get the
try
pepper
it
to herself
mild.
then.
Yeah.
Right, I'd be happy to try it mild, because I'm sure it's
Okay.
Wait a
awesome.
minute.
What was that? Just so that I
That was
know.
a jalapeno.
jalapeno.
Very, very
That's
common
what they
pepper.
look like when you're, I don't know, I always get the food prepared, so I don't know what they look like before they've been cut.
I was
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Have you
I'm
ever
not a
made-
big chef.
Have you ever made a recipe with a Scotch bonnet?
Yes, I have. We also grow ghost chilies at my house. We have a kit to do so. And I'm just going to juice this lime if it actually feels like juicing. And I'm going to get some of that lime juice in there to get a nice flavor. And I like lime juice, but what happens with it is you don't get enough of it, the fresh, so you do want to use some of the pre-prepared stuff so you have enough of it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to toss that in there, and then I'm going to toss this, the pico. Make sure it doesn't spill over, because I hate cleaning. That's the one part of cooking I don't like. I do not like to clean up, and my mom yells at me for it all the time, because I leave the kitchen a wreck, and I get
Is
her
that
side.
typical for
like my wife.
most chefs? Are most chefs
Well,
that
in my
way?
family, yes. Put it meekly.
they learn to clean as they go.
Yeah, that's the chef
Yeah.
term, as clean as you go. Everything has its place. You take it out, you put it right back, and I can cook for 2-3 hours, and my kitchen looks like you just walked into it. My wife can cook for 20 minutes and looks like everybody's been cooking there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So she just wasn't, she wasn't trained or she wasn't used to it. But yeah, because anytime you're looking for it again, you want to go right back to it. So.
Right.
So would you
What-
just
yeah.
put? Would you?
I've
Good question.
just added a little bit of garlic powder to it, because I like the pungency the garlic gives, and also gives another level of flavor.
Could you add fresh garlic if you wanted to mince that up?
Yes, but you have to make sure it's minced very finely,
Yeah,
or else it'll
exactly.
just get clumps.
Yeah.
And here you guys go with the
All right,
pico.
Beautiful.
pass
Thank
it
you.
over, take it to ship.
Sorry, it's not spicy. Mr.
That's something I
Oh,
do
no,
at my
that's
house. I do the
okay.
minced garlic, and that's my Italian. I'm Italian and Mexican, so I mix those two flavors. I spice up my gravies at home for my pasta, and then I add some Italian flair to the.
Do you make your pasta fresh?
My pasta, no. I use Badia pasta, and we also go to like Italian markets and get the pasta from there. So
Very good. Very, very good.
nothing
you.
beats like fresh produce, right? Once you get the fresh produce, it's
Correct.
fantastic.
I try to buy
And
all
I think
this
the
stuff is
lemon-
organic.
The lemon works out very, very good. Really helps bring it down.
And then
B,
Oh, it's wonderful. The lime, the fresh lime, really.
that kind of brings out the freshness and everything. Just kind of tops everything off. Lemon and lime really does that to a dish. So
And with pico de gallo, I find you want to use a saltier chip because you got to balance that sort of sweet flavor with the salt.
There's a lot of chemistry to cooking, isn't there?
Yes.
I mean, you have to
A lot of
understand
mix
all
and
that.
match, a lot of putting together. Excellent.
It's outstanding.
Excellent.
We already knew
Good
your
job.
answer, Mrs.
Well,
Farley.
he's
Come
made
on.
this for me before, so I'm
Well, it's a
very
beautiful dish.
fortunate.
Good job. We're going to
Nice
come
job.
back and we're going to make some fresh guacamole. Okay, so we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Okay, I didn't ask you why.
All right. Here. Hey, welcome back to Cook This. We are having a special episode today. We're taking one of the star culinary students from Mrs. Farley's class and bringing him in and having him cook breakfast for us. So he just cooked for our celebrity judge panel here. We have, again, Mr. Matt Sinde. We have Mrs. B, I just nicknamed her. And we have Mrs. Patti Farlee. Okay,
Hello.
pleasure. Thank you for eating onions with us in the morning. It's fantastic. Welcome to the family. I haven't had you on here before. We have Joe V here cooking for us, which has been going pretty good so far. He cut some fresh vegetables and made some fresh pico. And now he's going to make some fresh guacamole to go with those chips. So, Joe, take it over.
Okay. Main ingredient of guacamole is avocado. Avocado is nature's fattiest fruit, actually. And I make guacamole so often now that I've started calling avocados guacamole. So to pit an avocado, you just want to take them and you just want to roll it on your knife so that when you break it apart
Very carefully.
you have that nice little color. And you want to see, normally you'd be a little greener, but this is perfect. It's fresh. You can feel it by the skin. It has a tiny bit of give to it. And that's the perfect consistency for an avocado. And then to pit it, some people like to scoop it out. I personally just whack it, and then you twist. And you just push it off the knife.
Practice with your knives, people. This is
Yeah.
as a principal, I'm nervous with knives, but you're doing a great job, Joe. When did you get so comfortable using knives? Or
That's how I got into food. I wanted my own knife set. So
Oh,
I like
okay.
playing with sharp knives in the kitchen, and that's how I started really cooking. And then for my birthday of the year, I did that. My parents got me 8 knives and a whole knife set to go with it.
Wow.
nice.
Yeah.
Have you ever used a ceramic knife?
I have 3 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've seen people ruin those by just thinking it's a regular knife and just trying to,
You have to take really great care of them. I have special cases on them too. I spent over $400 on knives too. My parents spoil me to death when it comes to food.
Well, that's because you're feeding them.
Yeah.
So I think they win.
It's more of an investment, I think.
Yeah.
In their,
Now look at how you're putting the avocado.
Yeah, I've never
in the
seen
bowl.
those squeezed out
I would
before.
use a spoon
That is-
personally, but Joe has his
I've
own
seen
way.
people dice it out. I've seen people use a spoon. I think that you get the most personally when you just squeeze it out. So then you gotta wipe your hands off. Is the only downside to that one before you do the next one. And then same thing again.
They say other than a knife that the chef's hands are the next best tool.
Absolutely.
Well,
Anyone can tell you they always have gloves on. I've never met any chefs who got gloves on in the kitchen. I mean, you're handling the chicken and the fish, of course, but when you're sitting there, you're making ground beef or you're messing with that stuff, nothing's better than getting in there and,
Yes.
You can't feel the textures too when you have gloves on, I find. Because texture is one of the huge parts of cooking that I think a lot of people forget when they cook.
I have to add the chefs are washing their hands 100 times a day as well.
Yes.
After they touch each thing,
Yes.
they got the giant, so just to add that in.
Well, it's almost like creating artwork. I was a former English and art teacher, and it is you touch things with your hand. It's very tactile. You get to interact with your materials as you're making your creation, and I just see a lot of parallels with that. It's you are
Creation.
creating something,
Excellent.
and you're lost in that
Good
creative
contrast, yeah.
process.
So after you squeeze out the avocado, there's 2 more parts to guacamole. People debate about tomatoes. Some people hate tomatoes in their guacamole. Other people love them. I think that they add a nice little acid balance to it. So I'm just going to slice a tiny bit of tomato off in there and just cut that up so that I think that it just adds a very nice acid to it, and it just helps give the guacamole more depth of flavor. So I'm just
I
gonna
love that you use the bread knife because that's what I use at my house. When I'm cutting all my vegetables, I'm actually using a very serrated bread knife, and it goes right through my tomatoes, my peppers. I cook with a lot of peppers and onions, and I use that in there as well.
I've never used it for peppers, but I'm a
My
big
peppers,
fan for
I
the
use them for
tomato.
peppers a lot when I make my
Okay.
pasta sauce.
It cuts through the skin very, very,
Yeah.
very, very easy. It's not, you don't get that pull.
Never would have thought of that.
Well, and I'm surprised, Joe, you're using the seeds of the tomato as well as the skin. You didn't.
I personally like the flavor of both of them. I think that when I make my guacamole, I'm very particular on what I put in it. So if I like the seeds in there, especially because it does add another little texture. And
I was going to say, it's another texture piece. Yeah, it's good.
And then I'm going to take, after the tomato, onion. I like a lot of onion in my guacamole, personally. But as my mom constantly complains to me, there are other people in the room. You need to make it without so much, and garlic. I could eat a raw clove of garlic by myself.
Well, is that typical for chefs? I mean, maybe you know this, that they do it the way they like it or the way their audience likes it?
I do it the way I like it myself, and my family just happens to love that version. I make pico and guacamole all the time when I have my little Mexican fiestas. I don't eat them, but my family loves them. I have them taste testing. They're like standing in line at my kitchen table, and they're taste testing each. Did I have put enough salt? Did I put enough, lime juice in it? But I think that's what chefs are. They're, like you said, they're creating their own version. Sure, yours a recipe, but then I see a recipe and then I'm adding my own flair to it. And it sounds like he's got his own flair to that as well, which is great. It makes him a little bit more unique.
I always tell the students a recipe is like a roadmap. That it'll get you to the final destination, but we all know different shortcuts or different things that we like to do along the way.
It's almost like the schooling. They're going to teach you the fundamentals of it. He's learning his braising and the way he's chopping his julienne, but then he's going to do what he wants with it.
So I just add a little bit of garlic powder to it. Garlic, another thing that people debate about. Guacamole is, I think that guacamole is kind of, you got a general list of ingredients around it, and then you just kind of add what you like. Because my grandma makes it with just lime juice, a little bit of pepper, and salt, and I omit salt completely. I think that it doesn't really need it. And when mixing guacamole, spoons, I like a fork.
Why is that?
It mashes it up better.
Okay.
You can stab it if you need to, but you can also trap it against the sides of the bowl and mix it up and mash it and just get it so that it looks like guacamole instead of just having raw little pieces of avocado everywhere.
Now, the purpose of the pit is when you're storing it so it doesn't turn brown, am I right?
I was about to drop it. I'm going to drop it in there as soon as I'm done with everything.
Okay.
And with the pit, I can keep my guacamole I've kept it for 2 days before. But
I did not know that.
yeah. And also sometimes when you have a large batch of guacamole, the top layer turns brown, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. You just take the top layer off, and that's the only part that's oxidized. Okay,
It's kind of cool when you do that because you see this brown, you're like, oh, and then you just skim it with a spoon, and it's like fresh green again.
Beautiful green.
Yeah.
Gonna add some pepper here. I like fresh ground pepper. I think that's just a preference. I like the smell. You get a really nice smell too. Mix that in there. Did I add lime juice? Anyone
Yes,
remember?
you did.
I
Yes,
did?
you did.
Okay,
Yes.
just making sure. Didn't want to overpower it.
We just want to make sure you're paying attention over there.
That's it. That was our
I gotta
Now,
taste
do
this
you
before I
put-
give it to you.
Yes,
You don't put cilantro in it?
I'm about to put a little.
A little bit?
But I like to add cilantro to last because if you mix it in, I find it sometimes gets lost. Use a little
Okay.
more pepper. It's the only thing. Other
You
than
know,
that,
it also is good what the pepper grinder does too. It brings out the oil in that pepper seed itself. That helps brings in.
Now,
pepper.
you had mentioned that your pico you like salty chips with, and since you don't salt the guacamole, do you also do that with salty, use it with salty chips?
I do not like, I add almost no salt or sugar to my recipes now because I think it's healthier. And especially because, you use condiments and we have stuff we pair it with, and that sort of stuff I think is saltier usually on the norm. So I think it's better. So I'm just going to mix the cilantro in barely so you can just see the leaves, and then I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, can't wait.
Looks
We're
delicious.
salivating
For
over here.
breakfast. Nice. Beautiful. That's good. I've been doing that at my house too. I've been using a lot less salt in my stuff, and I've been tasting, my gravy. Just so you know, gravy is my spaghetti sauce at home. Okay, we call it gravy. We're using a lot less salt and just sampling it with my family. I'm like, did you even notice a difference? And I mean, sometimes I make big pots. It calls for several teaspoons of salt, and I've been just leaving it out, Or I'm salting like the chicken, or I'm salting some things that might be going into the sauce, but I'm not salting the sauce anymore. I find it hasn't made that big of an impact.
I think that omitting salt is one of the ways to cook healthier, especially with the big health kick that's going on in the chef industry.
Absolutely. So how's the guacamole, guys?
Very, very good.
Excellent.
Very creamy. Very, very
nice
good.
job.
Creamy is a key word. Excellent.
Yes.
Very nice.
I like how
Excellent.
you have large chunks of the avocado in there too.
That's what's good about it. You can get a chunk here and you get some creaminess. It's a multi-textured.
And we've
Excellent.
heard you really like texture, so it comes
Yeah.
out in your dish. It definitely represents you.
Excellent.
Excellent.
All right, well, some great guacamole here for lunch. Next, we're gonna have his star plate. We're gonna cook some steak fajitas for you guys, so we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Cook This. We have celebrity guest chef here, Mr. Joe V, Mr. Sophomore Joe V, in the culinary division of Mrs. Patti Farlee, who's our guest judge here, Mrs. B, and Mr. Sinde. So we've made some pico, we've made some guacamole, all fresh ingredients, and now he's kind of making the special plate of Mexican cuisine. It's the steak fajitas, which is a great flair in Mexican restaurants, I think, when they come out with the sizzle and everything like that. You know, so Mr. Joe V, why don't you take it over? How are we making fajitas?
Of course, as in a lot of my food, I love using onions, cilantro, lime juice. And my favorite meat is either beef or lamb, so we're going to use beef here. So just going to take these, the onions, going to chop it really fast into a nice little round to it, and we're going to fry them off. Here, nice sizzle in the pan when you drop them in there. Then we're going to add a green bell pepper.
You know, I saw that when you put the oil in, you had butter with that too.
Yes.
And what was the purpose for that?
The butter and the oil together lowers the butter's smoking point. So butter has a nicer flavor than using regular oil. And when you lower the smoking point, you're able to get it at a higher heat without the butter like burning or anything. So now I'm going to julienne these peppers here really fast.
Some people would say that just the opposite, that it gives a higher smoking point to the butter.
What did I say, lower?
You did.
Whoops.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do to
It
chop.
is.
You're a
It
sophomore,
is.
it's okay.
You're doing
I'm also a
fantastic.
perfectionist.
You had the idea. You were correct on the idea. Julia Child was a big proponent of mixing a little bit of
I love Julia Child.
and I try to make sure the students are exposed to her in some capacity.
So Joe, who is your chef that you admire most? Do you follow the chefs?
Yes, Rick Bayless.
Okay.
Chicago. I went to his restaurant Topola Bampo just a couple weeks ago, and it was the best food of my life by far.
Really?
What'd
you have?
I had a Wagyu beef with mole negro. I had a lamb chop that was also with a red mole, and this red snapper with I don't even remember. I think it was like just this amazing sauce, like coconut sauce.
Nice.
And now we're gonna take the meat. I pre-marinated the meat a little bit. I'm gonna turn up the heat here.
What did you marinate it with?
I marinated just a little bit of olive oil, pepper, and cilantro, and a tiny bit of lime juice on top. I'm just going to toss that in there for it to start cooking.
So tell us, I'm sorry, tell us as non-cooks, how long do you marinate that for?
I'd say marinate it for about, I only did for about 4 hours. But I had this meat also jacquarded by a butcher, which is when they just poke so many tiny holes in it that the meat actually, it soaks up flavor a lot better than normally would.
What type of meats are you using?
I am using a charcoal steak, which is
Okay.
off the flank of the cow. I think it has the best flavor, and it also cooks very quickly. So I'm just going to turn this up
So
here.
do you like experiment with different kinds of meat?
I do experiment with basically any type of food. It's raw. Any type of food I can, and I get my hands on. My parents have bought me lamb chops. They bought me goat. They bought me everything. Veal. I get to cook with anything I want because they like tasting my food. So they really support me in that.
That's
So
wonderful.
fajitas, you have the beef in there. What other meats would you use?
Chicken is very common for fajitas, as is pork. But I think that beef is the nice one because it's the fattiest, and when it cooks down, it tastes the best. And now I'm going to add a little bit of this ancho pepper spice into it, and that'll give it a nice smoky, authentic flavor.
The other thing that your parents really do for you, I think, that I listen and I hear from you, is they take you to so many different restaurants for you to get your inspiration, which really helps, don't you think, Joe?
Yeah, they spoil me rotten with restaurants. I've been to Alinea. Do you know Alinea in Chicago? I'm going there next March. I've been to Topola Bampo, as I mentioned. I've also joined many restaurants, just everywhere, all types of food. And then the other type of food I enjoy doing besides Latin is I just got into Japanese food.
How did you get into that?
I have no clue. It's just started interesting me. And so I started cooking it and experimenting with it. And it's very hard to find the ingredients, which I find which kind of disappoints me. So I have to go to a lot of specialty markets for them.
So what have you made so far?
Um,
Japanese cuisine.
I learned how to make ramen noodles. I learned how to make, I learned how to do a lot of Japanese, more steak, how to do marinades, almost like Japanese Korean barbecue. And then I've also learned how to do spring rolls by them, and that's all I've done so far.
Okay. Wow, that's exciting.
You know, I found out with restaurants, you can go with the big brand names and, you know, the famous ones, and I think you get the most learning by going to the small ones. Nobody ever goes to, but it's you get the old time, and they'll let you go in back of the kitchen, and sometimes this will.
Yeah.
Okay, now those are just gonna cook off. And once they get to that nice brown color, you know, the nice crisp color, I'm gonna serve them to you.
What's one of your favorite food memories from growing up?
My mom does not like to cook. I will start off with that. She's not bad at it, but she doesn't like it. So one of the few things she actually enjoys making is empanadas. So I loved when we were, that adds on to one of the foods I actually ate. We would make empanadas and she would just be there and she'd show me how to do all that stuff. So that's one of my favorite food memories. Oh, and then we also, one of my other ones that's a failure is when I was 6 or 7, my dad told me to turn the oven off because we were making brownies, and I accidentally turned it on to broil. So those burnt, and then I did it again. So that's another one of my favorite food memories. When I mess up stuff, I remember it, and I always try to not do it again, but we had such a fun laugh about it that it was okay.
It's a good memory.
Yeah.
I think it's also somewhat indicative of your experience with the baking side of the.
I have messed up everything that
You
involves
do a
baking.
great job. You do a great job. I just think I've not heard that story from you before.
I don't have the patience to bake. I have the patience to cook because
You're-
baking is, you know, you got to follow the recipe. It's more of a
Right.
chemistry, like science. You got to be
Yeah.
really, and I don't like to do that with food because I want to make it my way.
Yeah.
So I'll add extra sugar, or I'll add extracts to it, or I'll do something stupid, basically.
So I just seen you add cilantro to that. So
Yes.
you want to put that at the end? That's where you would put that in?
Yes.
Okay.
Right at the end. So I'm just going to toss
Smelling
this in.
delicious.
Yes.
People at home, I'm so sorry that
Are they
you're not getting the benefit of this.
Mr. Passarella always hopes that
Tongs?
there's the smell-o-vision,
tongs
I
over
think he
here on the
calls
table?
it.
Yeah. I love the smell. It smells fresh and light. And
Right.
I
You can
think
smell
that-
the marinade in the meat a little bit.
And if you haven't been able to tell through my cooking right now, cilantro is my favorite spice.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm
I
just
love those
gonna
tongs.
toss-
They close like
Yeah.
that.
They're better for storage too.
Oh my God! I open up my drawer and just like tongs everywhere.
Pop goes the tongue.
And then I also love this one. What's happening right now is when I'm cooking and the steam's right in my face, and it just, I love that feeling because you feel like you really accomplished something. Okay, these are ready. These are almost all cooked out. So I'm gonna press 10 on this tortilla over here in the microwave just to warm up the tortillas so that they're not, you know.
When I make this at my house, it's I got it. It's corn or flour tortillas. I make a mixture. I just did it yesterday actually. I make a bunch of flour.
You make
and,
your own?
No,
I was
no,
gonna
hey,
say,
no, I don't
whoa.
do that. I buy corn and flour for my house.
Okay.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a mixture that we can have. I told him I also make this, but then if you have leftovers the next day, you take it in a tortilla, roll it up, put a toothpick in it and fry it up, and I make flautas the next day with the same meats.
Oh.
So it kind of changes it up. They're not like, tacos again. No, they get the flautas.
So you can taste this pure, or you can deck them out with the guacamole and pico de gallo I already made. I do that at home.
So
Oh,
yeah.
That's a
forgot
great
one thing.
idea. I'm
Before you
gonna-
bite into them, a little bit of cheese here. This is Chihuahua cheese, and if I could actually get the package open, excuse me. It's a Mexican cheese, and I love it because it melts when you
Yep.
put it right on the hot food.
Let me turn off the.
I'm going to try it without all of the
Yeah.
extra things
Then
so
you
I
just
can
take it
get the
off.
pure flavor, Joe.
That's what I'm going to do too.
Oh, that looks awesome.
Nice and juicy.
Yeah, a lot of juices there. I made fajitas for
Oh,
years.
it's fabulous.
Thank you.
Very, very good. Very, very good.
And the meat is really tender.
That's the main thing, tender, and that's the kind of meat you buy and stuff like that. Plus, you got it marinated.
Marinating.
Excellent.
It's fantastic, Joe. Nice
Wonderful.
job.
You know what,
Thank
Joe? You did
so
a good
much.
job, man. You know,
Proud
you've
of
had
you.
experienced chefs in there. People have been cooking for 30 years. You've been cooking for 5. I mean, you're still in high school, so I mean, wonderful job to your teacher as well.
Thanks, Miss Farley.
I took
No,
cooking
you're-
classes here when I was a kid, and it kind of inspired
makes it
me
easy.
as well. You know, so Good job and good luck to you continuing your education and in your career afterwards, you know. You got some good mentors behind you here. So I'd like to say thank you to Joe and the celebrity staff here. And I am your host, Pete Calvetti. Another episode of Cook This, Stay Hungry. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Good job, buddy.